Today on the show, Radical Ones, we are back with a brand new season. We kick off season 5 with the horror comedy My Boyfriend's Back from 1993.
How could you? You ate Chuck!
Not all of him.
It's time to get radical.
Said he's having no trouble.
It's simple.
Hello there. It's showtime.
What is this, trick-or-treat?
Did I do that?
Good morning, Charlie.
Champion of justice.
Deal with it. Daddy would have gotten us Uzi.
The power is yours.
Get down, honey, get down.
And look, I won't go far, okay? If the apocalypse comes,
Hold your fire! I'm a human!
Grace Jones.
Thunder. 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 Thundercats.
Power 3 will set us free. Power 3 will set us free. Power 3 will set us free.
But I ain't one to gossip, so if anyone asks you, you ain't heard it from me. No, you have?
No more room in hell. The dead walk piers.
Dooby-doo!
Happy season premiere, Radical Ones. Welcome back to another episode of the Radical Retro Rewind podcast. As always, I am your host, Radical Ryan Hunter, here with Rob, the movie geek himself, for our premiere. Almost 5 years. I think once we get to the end of this, it will be like 5 years. Dun, dun, dun.
Hello, everyone.
So, Rob, going into today's movie, it is My Boyfriend's Back from 1993, described as, it tells the story of Johnny Dingle, a teenage boy who returns from the dead as a zombie to meet Missy McCloud, the girl he's in love with, for a date.
Wait, does it say Dinkley in your description? Are you reading
Dingle,
your...
messing up. It is officially a new season, Radical Ones. Of course, Ryan couldn't read this right. What is it? Johnny Dingle.
Dingle.
Dingle. Dingle.
There's no K. I don't think there's a K in there.
This is a movie that seems to be a fever dream for every 90s kids, because researching this, everyone's reaction was on a trailer, on an article of news for this wasn't a dream. I saw this as a kid and it's real.
Really? That's interesting. I mean, the title of the movie is a literal song title. How can anyone forget this?
Which, strangely, is played in the trailer, but not the movie? You couldn't afford that for the movie, actually, that it's named after?
I think the way that the movie is, it probably would have fit perfectly, seeing how crazy it is. But yeah, that wasn't the theme of the song. Because if you notice, the song that's played at prom is the musical score for the entire movie. So they really just banked on just that one song and used the instrumental for the rest of the score.
And what a song.
I love that song. Oh God, I love that song so much.
We'll get into it, but it's the best part for me, honestly.
If I'm not mistaken, so it says it's performed by MMC. However, I don't know if it's an original song. Is it an original song or is it a cover? I didn't look it up and I should have, but I love that song.
It sounds like, Rob, honestly, that they took an 80s power ballad from one of these teen movies and put it in this 90s/50s movie. That is a standout scene. I don't know what that says, but of course we'll get into it.
Yeah.
So your history with My Boyfriend's Back.
I believe I saw this in theater. There's part of my fever dream. I don't remember if I have or not, but it's a movie that definitely fits my aesthetic. So I would have made a point to see this in theaters. Maybe watched it once or twice afterwards when it was on cable. I might have thought it was okay to watch a second or third time, but honestly, when I was old enough to really get into movies and have a life and whatever, like, this was not a movie I returned to, but I had fond memories of it. I didn't think that it was horrible. I remember it. It is something of my childhood. That's pretty much what it is.
Mine was one and done. Matter of fact, gotta go back to the good old Blockbuster days, Rob, where that cover stood out. It's PG-13, and I remember watching this with my mother, but holy crap, I am so glad that everything went over my head, because I had a completely different movie in mind, Rob. So maybe that was my fever dream. I definitely remember this. For some reason, I remember the song playing, but maybe that was the trailer.
They say when you're dead, you're dead.
They say you only get one chance at life. But for childhood sweethearts Missy and Johnny, true love will never die.
My boyfriend's back and you're
He came back from the dead for me.
God, my boyfriend won't even pump gas for me.
By God, if it ain't the zombie out with a living woman.
What do you have against Johnny besides the fact that he's dead?
He's a stinking zombie, you idiot.
He's been gone for such a long time.
My dad'll go berserk if he finds out I went out with a dead guy.
You stupid dead zombie pond scum.
There's a lot of prejudice against the undead.
Whore of the undead. Tramp.
Zombie lover.
We want the zombie! Let's get up! Pretty damned active for a dead guy. Come on, let's get it, gang.
Hey, quit it!
If you're gonna kill him, you're gonna have to kill me. I mean it.
My boyfriend's back.
Well, I hope somebody eats a whole damn bunch of you.
Let's get into this. A story, Rob, as old as time. Boy is in love with the childhood girl that he's always wanted to go out with, and he wants to take her to prom. If any of our radical ones remember, Rob, and I'm going to ask him if he thinks this actually is a snow globe movie. But to me, Rob came up with this term during our practical magic came up, our episode. And to me, this world it has to be. It's contained because the reactions that people have are beyond anything really that, like, everyone's either too calm or just over the top. So I really think this is in its own world for sure. I mean, of course, every movie's in its own world, right? But even the fact that really no one questioned this kid coming back to life, really?
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't know if I would call it a snow globe movie. I mean, this is definitely a very specific universe that plays into the dark comedy aspect of it. I don't know, because again, remember the snow globes sort of capture a specific memory and sort of like a time that keeps you in that mood when you're watching it. This movie doesn't necessarily invoke an emotion like that, but you are correct in saying that it's contained, right? Like, we are definitely dealing with a specific type of universe where this can happen. It exists, and no other world is like it. So I totally get that. But yeah, the snow globe part is just more of like the feeling that you get when shaking a snow globe and you look into it and blah, blah, blah.
This was it. This was the beginning of a dream come true. I picked her up early. I had all the right moves. I was like Tom Cruise, only dead.
We got a lot of recognizable leads. Of course, for our radical ones, we have Matthew McConaughey's first movie.
Wow, I did not know that was his first, but I did spot him immediately.
Random audience, teenager in a movie theater.
He had to have been in something.
Matthew Fox's first film.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that.
And Renee Zellweger had a few lines as a customer in a beauty shop, but the scene was cut. So
I was about to say, I did not see her.
Our male lead, Andrew Lowery, I want to say. We know him from, well, to me, I just see Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie, and I see him as a vampire. That's it. Buffy, and of course I remembered he was from this, but beyond that, Fright Night 2. That's what I wanted to tell you, Rob.
Yeah, Fright Night 2 is
lead.
Yeah. Our lead was our love interest or female lead in Fright Night 2. The guy was also in School Ties. A lot of people don't really remember this movie that well, but he was one of the college kids at this school, so he stands out to me from that movie as well.
And Mr. Gilmore from the Gilmore Girls.
I love that he's in this. Edward Herrmann, God bless him. He's great in this. Yeah, I was really surprised by Matthew Fox, and Matthew McConaughey I did not suspect at all.
Isn't that Buck's girl?
Sure is.
What's she doing here with the dead kid?
I don't know, man.
Of course, a lot of character actors popped up through this. Cloris Leachman is one of them that I just was like, why not? Let's have her in this movie, right? But Philip Hoffman was the biggest shock for me.
Yes.
I remember his character 100%, but do I remember it was Philip the whole time? Absolutely not. I got this weird Victor Frankenstein Igor vibe between the two of them. The way that he was sort of like hunched hunched over and sort of like this sidekick to Matthew, even though it wasn't him that resurrected him. I don't know. It just kind of fit the aesthetic of this, like this dead person coming back to life. But watching Philip do that, that was wild to me. That was so crazy.
It seemed like it was his voice, but I felt like with his lines, everything looked almost like it was not lining up correctly. So at one point I was like, I wonder if they changed some dialogue. But whatever the case is, yeah, he's pretty much like one of our antagonists. He's in this high school and he plays the typical bully that accidentally kills himself.
Come here, you stinking ditch! Yahoo toucher!
The main plot has our lead doing this whole elaborate plot with his best friend. He wants to set up this fake robbery where Missy works at this convenience store, and don't you know, in all of the odds, a real robbery is attempted to be had. Masks were exchanged, and Johnny, thinking he's stepping in front of nothing, gets shot and killed. And then, of course, the lead comes back just like it's promised in the title. So I have a little problem with our female lead in the way that she didn't give him the time of day, Rob. The time of day while he was alive. All it took was coming back and eating somebody for her. But
this particular viewing of My Boyfriend's Back was not a great one. I found myself really easily distracted. I was not glued to the television watching this. I don't mind the dark humor of it all, but it's a little bit too silly for my take. I do enjoy the concept. I mean, the title in itself, it's a play on words. Like, it's about zombies. Like, why not, right? Like, I love stuff like this, and they continue to make movies like this all the time.
Warm Bodies, I thought of as
Warm Bodies is a great
movie.
example. Yes, I just couldn't attach myself to the movie. If this was like a Disney original, I would give it more grace. This is a huge theatrical release, and it just didn't age well for me. And so while I found a little bit of it funny, there weren't concrete rules about how the zombie thing works. It didn't really make sense how his personality completely changes. This man was saying everything to her, and he was scared to say 2 words to her in the beginning. But after he dies, he comes back and he's literally like stalking her and being like, hey, you said yes, we're going to prom together. Why don't you like me? Is it because I almost ate? Like, he's just so big and bold all of a sudden. And I'm like, where was this attitude when you were alive? Like, there's just nothing to really explain his change in personality, his boldness, or anything like that. And so it just came off weird to me.
Do you think it had to do with the fact that he died, and at that point, I guess he figured, what does he have to lose? Or was it, based on the ending, one of these learning lessons that you're supposed to go through to really, like, while you're alive, live your life and do your dreams? I don't know, but you're right. I mean, death definitely gave this man something.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he finally asks her, she says yes, and maybe that's all it took, was for one yes for him to just not be shy anymore. But he came out not even believing he was dead. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just a weird concept with like the rules, and also for us to just jump immediately into this, like, oh, so we live in a world where everybody's okay if the dead comes back to life. The groundskeeper immediately was like looking at this random dude in a graveyard being like, hi, my name's Murray, how are you tonight? And it's just like, oh yeah, somebody came back to life like 15 years ago. I'm like,
15, yeah.
If you knew nothing about this, I mean, yeah, he's walking around school and things are happening. So I guess the trailer kind of hinted that people don't care, but there's no sense of like, oh my God, my son just died. Or, but he was like, oh, well, breakfast is ready in 5 minutes.
Johnny, breakfast is ready.
It's just a very like knock over the head that you're going to be dealing with this kind of silliness, and it just didn't execute well watching it today.
That's exactly what it is. I think the acting in this is really great with a lot of the character actors, especially that gravedigger. To me, that is a missed opportunity. They kind of bookend him. He was in the beginning. He gave him the information to see Cloris Leachman, because this happened, like Rob said, in the past. And then he's at the end. To me, he could have been like a guide or someone to give him more information, because he seemed really interesting. There was a lot of this like, oh, this seems interesting.
Oh, look at you. You're a mess. Just crawled out of the grave, did you?
I guess so.
Isn't that something? Been a long time since anybody came back from the dead. I think the last time was Thanksgiving, about 15 years ago.
Hey, wait a minute. Did you say come back from the dead?
Yes. You're now one of the undead, Johnny Dingle. Doomed to spend the rest of your days shunned by the human race.
Why did he have me online looking up? Because I thought it was like a reference. He was like, this happened one other time 15 years ago during Thanksgiving. I was online trying to look for a movie that he was referencing. It was just words he was just saying.
So along with you're saying, I got it that they thought this was really smart writing, and the jokes they thought was really like sharp and now, but it did fail in that kind of sense, Rob. These jokes, I mean, there was a few, I mean, and there's an entendres about, you know, like eating somebody literally.
Don't you understand? I love you.
And I love you, Johnny. That's why I want you to eat me. Don't you want to eat me?
Well,
I don't think it's as smart as they thought. Okay, the mother, like you said, with the parents, she takes a little boy who happens to be the brother of Hoffman's character, who's also dead, and has him on a silver platter, literally, with garnished greens underneath. And then she keeps getting bodies because we found out, it's 20 minutes per bite that you get to stay together for some reason.
Yeah. I thought she was hilarious. Her and the teacher were almost my favorite characters.
Teacher.
These two were so funny, but for a dark comedy like this, the mom character and just trying to do everything for her child made perfect sense.
Yeah.
She's like, I thought you needed a snack. It's whatever. I just got you some bodies. And she was just so happy. But then also when it came down to defending him against the town people, and she grabs that rifle and was like, please leave my home or I will shoot you. Like, she was top tier for me. I loved her so much. But the teacher, the first line we get from this movie after the narration is, extinguish your voices.
Thanks.
Extinguish all talking.
Oh my God, that was the line.
That down, Rob.
I love that line so much. But here's what's also wild about this movie is that they decided to also set it in this like 50s, 60s vibe. Like even the teacher had an apple on her desk.
Yeah.
Like it's just so like, let's go to the sock hop, and the prom is like the best thing that ever happened to these people. There's a town sheriff.
Pleasantville, very Pleasantville-esque.
Yeah. It's also just this idea of like, why does the sheriff or a cop have like the genes of an Adonis and they birth these popular children? Like, why does the sheriff's kid have to be the most hottest thing that everybody wants to sleep with?
She was really beautiful. You're right. She was like,
if you want to talk retro cliches, and that's one of them. The sheriff always has the most beautiful dollar in the world.
Honey, let the zombie go and I'll buy you a pretty new dress.
No, Daddy.
It just makes me laugh.
Not in Jason, not in that Friday the 13th we did with that girl, with Tommy.
But yeah, even though that, you know, Johnny was late, he was like, sorry, I died 2 days. He's like, that is no excuse to be trolloping here all late like you own the place. I just love the teacher. She was funny. She was great.
And again, that's it. The kids, okay, while he was dead, they just, for the most part, put up with it. But also that comic book style narration, I thought was kind of cool. It definitely goes with that 50s vibe.
All my life, I've been in love with Missy McCloud. That's her, back at her first grade birthday party. Even at the age of 6, Missy was the kind of girl that everyone just liked being around. Me especially. That's me in the back, with the little red fireman's hat on. And that is the most amazing present in the world, Missy. She filled out in all the right places, the ones I'd been reading about in the National Geographic. The more she grew up, the more helplessly in love I became. That was the problem. But you know what they say, love makes you do crazy things. Well, my love for Missy drove me to do the most unimaginable thing one human being can do to another. But that comes later. My story begins at the end of my senior year in high school, on the historic day after Missy broke up with Buck Van Patten, her boyfriend for the last 6 years. I was ecstatic. This day was the beginning of the end of my life.
All makes for a cool movie, I think, on paper. It all seems like it fits, but then,
I don't know if you thought about this or, whatever. My other thing is that I honestly didn't care for these two people to date.
Mm-hmm.
If they just remained friends, I would have been totally fine with that. I was more concerned about Johnny and Eddie's friendship than I was about this relationship with this girl. And it says nothing about the actors, right? Like, I just don't really get much personality from either character. I just didn't care if Johnny got the girl, and I didn't care that this woman could make up her freaking mind about who she wants to date. It just did not faze me one bit to see those two together. And like you said, all of a sudden she just likes him, and maybe she did the whole time and didn't really know it until he confessed. But like, I just don't feel that there was built up. Like, it would have been better if they were really good friends. Johnny's shyness and then catapults into this fake heroic thing also doesn't say a lot about what he thinks about her intelligence. I saved her life, therefore she'll dump her man and go to prom with me. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I've seen, like, there are definite movies about this. Like, there's a literal movie out there where this guy tries to get the attention of this girl by putting them in extreme situations, and if they spend enough time together, they'll trauma bond and eventually date.
God.
It had Andrew Keegan in it, if I remember correctly. I just can't think of the name of the movie. But like, there are movies definitely built around this sort of plot. So like, I get it. But like, if you're really that shy, like, you're not ready for a girl. You're not, like, it's just weird. I just was not connecting with the two of them together. So,
I'll give it, by the time that we wanted him just to make it to the prom and the song, maybe it was the song, we go back to the song again, but I did feel satisfied that he did get to the dance. By the end, when he collapsed, I was like, okay, it hit all those teen, romantic comedy beats, and it's like, and he died at the prom.
And that's it. That's the whole story. I know it seems pretty preposterous, but it happened just that way. If I had to do it all over again and I could do it differently, you know what I'd change? Nothing. Well, I take that back. That's not entirely true. I think I would have eaten Buck.
So, do you think it was the bullets, Rob, then, that went after her, or that she decided he was, dateable now, or is she into like necrophilia?
Well, that's the other thing too. It's like, I wonder if there was any rules on like being around him. Just sort of gave off like pheromones or something to kind of be like, "Ooh, this is attractive," or something like confident. I don't know, but we saw she was like, "Oh, he's forcing me to go to prom, so I'll see you on that date." And then like, she's cheating on him, and it's just like, I don't care too much who she ends up with now, because she's sitting there playing both of these dudes for fools. I don't know. It just got a little weird.
All it took then was after he did eat Sean's character, or whatever, Philip Hoffman. Okay, she didn't want to go to the prom, but she is at this beauty parlor, and that one girl, when he comes in and says, "I ate him for you, I came back for the dead, and my boyfriend won't even pump gas for me."
I'm gonna talk to you about that.
There is nothing you can say to make things better, Johnny, because you ate someone. Do you understand that? You ate someone.
Wait a minute. Are you afraid I might eat you? Is that the problem?
Are you kidding me? Will you just leave me alone?
You may not know this, Missy, but I ate Chuck for you.
God, my boyfriend won't even pump gas for me.
Well, girl, okay, you know what? Take him to the prom.
And this
is
is
the little things.
This is the part where we need to just take it at face value, right? Like, we
Yes.
know what movie that we're getting, and this is the type of comedy they want to share. The groundskeeper warning Johnny about like, hey, if you go out there, it's just going to lead to more death and stuff. And like, I think that was a very nice, subtle, and PG-13 way of saying like, eventually you're going to need to eat. And this is what's going to happen if you do that. And, obviously the town got into an uproar. There was, a townspeople brigade and whatever you call it. And like, I get that. And I enjoy that whole like warning sign thing. I thought that was kind of clever in the storytelling. Yeah. I just thought it was okay. okay. I just thought it was okay.
That's why he could have been in that cemetery passing the gates. He walks by and goes, "See, kid," or something like that. "I told you things weren't going to go well." Like that, I think would have definitely added. Just really quickly, we do also have a lot of montage music, including there's this doctor, it's his family doctor, that originally starts off trying to help him and bring him back to life. And then they realize that he's like almost like an anti-aging his body. I could have did that without that whole plot too, Rob, because honestly, by the end, there was a kidnapping, but it was done within like boom, bam, boom, boom. It was solved. So what was the point of all that?
I guess just how far he will go to prom with her. You know, my body's decaying and falling apart, but I'm still gonna do whatever it takes to get to this dance.
You were gonna eat me, weren't you?
Don't be ridiculous. I would never eat you.
And why not? What, I'm not good enough for you?
This movie, it reminded me of this story that I remember since I was a little boy, Rob. A family member of David and I don't know, this was a while ago. It was like a distant family or, not close family. There's a scene in this movie where an ear comes off. Well, I thought of instantly this story. The woman, her husband died, whoever it was that we were related to. The woman was so distraught in the funeral that she was pulling on this gentleman's ears, the husband's ears in the funeral. And both ears, Rob, came off in her hands at the funeral.
Oh.
She was so distraught. I could only imagine. So, those things really come off easy. And then this poor woman, I remember hearing she passed away right after that. I don't blame her. He is falling apart. It's gross. And I still don't get how these things happen. Just like that movie that just came out too, Lisa Frankenstein, which I really enjoyed. I just can't imagine being with these dead bodies, Rob.
As much as you like zombies. Yeah. So, I mean, speaking about that, like, I will give credit to the practical effects that was in this. They used the least amount of blood that they could, but as far as the dream sequence when his body's falling apart, I thought that was kind of funny. The acting I thought was decent for what was given to them. I mean, if they're gonna play these quirky characters and pretend that what they're seeing isn't horrifying and grotesque, yeah, I enjoyed all the acting. Everybody was sort of in this hypnotic state of just cheerfulness and glee, and then if not, you were just an evil asshole who
Yeah, that's true. You were either in bliss or you were rounding up, with guns. There was no in between. So, Rob, a few trivia facts that I thought were interesting. The film was originally entitled Johnny Zombie before it was, of course, changed. And this is the title of the movie that Johnny goes to see. It's called Johnny Zombie in a reference to the original plot.
I did notice that on the marquee.
I wonder at what point actually the movie changed, title. Did you notice this? Because I need to maybe go back just for that. The house used for Missy's house, the exterior shots, was Nancy's in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Anytime I see a red door, I'm always going to see if it's the exact same house. And yes, I did notice that.
You did? Okay. It went right over my head. Maybe I was oblivious. I was not paying as close attention either.
There are many houses that look very similar to that, so who knows? But that was one particular house that I found to be very similar to Nancy's 1428 Elm Street.
look at him. He knows. Okay, so Rob, I give it, if I had to say to our radical ones, like I said earlier, the acting is really sharp, really good, but the humor, But if you want, it's a time capsule of the 90s as much as it's 50s and 80s and, things like that. It has a great poster, which is probably why 8-year-old Ryan wanted to see this movie. Plus, it looks like it was going to be like a fun 50s, Grease with zombies kind of thing. But there's an ending still that beyond what we mentioned that, it ends on a different way. But if it sounds interesting, I would say give it a go. But if you're going to seek out movies this Halloween season, maybe not the top of the batch. So of course we had to start our season with it, Rob.
Yeah, I don't have anything against this movie. The only thing that's against it is the fact that this plot has been done numerous times and done better.
Yes.
And so when you're looking for a movie like this, you can easily find a different one that just told the story better. And so this particular script and comedic timing doesn't necessarily have any value, something to really be like, well, My Boyfriend's Back had this.
Yeah.
And this movie had this one scene that was like, there just isn't anything that gravitates you to watch this over another movie. And there are just other movies out there that have just done it better. So unfortunately, this gets lost in the it just gets lost in the cracks. It just falls under the crack. It just doesn't give you a reason to return to this versus another one. And yeah, it is a 90s staple, but is it though? That's the thing. It's like there's clearly 90s filmmaking in this, but there just isn't anything substantial or just something that just has an iconic moment to make you want to watch this over and over again. You know, so I mean, and when we get to the recommendations, you know, like you'll kind of understand as the movies that I picked are a little bit popular than this one, but they're just, I was trying to really hone in. There really isn't a performance in here. Now, that's the other thing. It's all based on nostalgia, right? So it just depends how you grew up with this. If you and your household watched this so many times, like this is going to do something for you that it didn't do for me.
Exactly. So, you said it beautifully. And it seems like those people that thought it was a dream, there is others that grew up with this and did say it was a staple in their house. And I watched it with my sister. I watched it with my brother. So, I mean, I say listen to that song from the movie, add it to your power ballad 80s teen witch songs. Really great song. So, speaking of movie recommendations based on this movie, I know that Rob has them for us, so I'm ready, Rob.
Rob's recommendations.
All right, so I mean, I could easily go with the easy recommendations, right? Like Teen Witch, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and
that's exactly
Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. These three movies are literally what you see in My Boyfriend's Back, just better. All the elements from this movie is in all three of these movies, and they just do them so much better. I'm not going to go with those. We all know about those, right? No, we're going to go with something different. So if you did like My Boyfriend's Back, I recommend Idle Hands. It deals with the whole zombie rules and stuff like that a bit better. It's a little scarier than My Boyfriend's Back, but I think the zombie aspect is told better. If you want to be in a world where zombification is accepted and not as out of this world as you may think, right? I just think the quirkiness and the zaniness that happens in Idle Hands is just handled a little bit better to revisit. So Idle Hands, Devin Sawa.
And filmed better. Definitely, it's a more iconic movie. You're right.
The next one I'm going to recommend is Teen Wolf. And that is just the Michael J. Fox one. That is just based on the fact of a small town having to deal with one of our universal monsters and in a comedic way. This movie was definitely done a lot better with more personality, more special effects, and just more into the lore of, you know, the monster at hand. And it was just handled better. Like, there are people who literally are just like, no, I am not messing around with some wolf. Like, it's just more grounded.
Yes.
And again, and it was still done in that comedic form where the world accepted the fact that there are werewolves, right? So there is a difference in comedic value because the other one's a dark comedy, right? But it's just, this one's funnier and it just has more of a presence in its characters and everything. So, and then the last one that I want to recommend, I think I brought this movie up before, but I just, again, will keep returning to it. I just think it's hilarious and so cheesy. I accept all of its flaws, different from this one, and that is My Demon Lover. That is the movie where the guy turns into a monster every time he gets aroused and horny. And this girl is just sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place trying to figure out her sort of relationship with this man, but he was cursed and he is not allowed to get aroused at all. The moment he gets horny, Or maybe it's just the climax. I can't remember, but he turns into some type of monstrous demon.
It looks like the leprechaun almost, the face that they gave him.
I
Oh
used to watch this movie so much when I was a kid, and I just think the idea of it is so stupid and funny, but I love it. I love it. And for a romantic comedy, I think this movie handled it a little bit better. It is a hard R, if I'm not mistaken, so there is a distinction with that. But if you liked My Boyfriend's Back, you'll definitely love these 3 movies, including My Demon Lover. When you're ready, because this movie is so wild. It's so out there. When you are ready, Ryan. All right, now if you did not like My Boyfriend's Back, I am suggesting Ed and His Dead Mother. Do you remember this movie?
I remember this title.
Yeah, Ed and His Dead Mother. Yeah, this kid who is a mother's boy, and the mom dies, but she comes back as a carnivorous, zombie, and he tries to keep it a secret or hold on to his mom as long as he can, but she keeps eating people. So if you remember, I forget the actress's name, but she is the herbivore. Is that how you say it? The herbs teacher in Hogwarts. I forget her name. Yes, I believe this is the same actress. She is a hoot. If you ever see like her in interviews or whatever, but she plays this very like Donna Reed, like Beaver Cleaver sort of mom. She's always got an apron. She's always in the kitchen, but it just goes bonkers. Like she's chasing men with like knives and a fork in her hand, trying to eat it. Like it gets so wild, but I think if you're going to watch a zombie movie that's comedy, watch Ed and His Dead Mother. It is so good. It is so good. The next movie I want to recommend gives off the sort of 50s and 60s vibe that you got from this movie, even though it wasn't made in that time period. It's called Meet the Applegates. And this is Stockard Channing, Edward Begley Jr., I can't remember the kids. I know the kids are familiar, but yeah, Meet the Applegates are these alien cockroaches. I think they were cockroaches or beetles. I can't remember, but they take on human form to study their, the human life or whatever. But then it turns into this like Meet the Joneses or Catching Up with the Joneses movie where they're obsessed with like having everything, being the best father, being the best mom, having everything. They all fall into these like tropes of what it takes to be the perfect family. And it's dark. It's a dark comedy, and it deals with the, I shouldn't say supernatural, but it has like monsters in it or whatever. I think this movie, also told in sort of that 50s, 60s vibe, does a way better job than My Boyfriend's Back. Definitely check out Meet the Applegates. It's super dark. It's very dark. The last movie that I want to recommend, if you did not like My Boyfriend's Back, is Matinee with John Goodman. I enjoyed this film from what I can remember. It's been a very long time since I've watched it, but it talks about a man who wants to revive sort of this, like, I forget the name of it, creature feature, like B movies or whatever.
The retro style of.
Yeah, and so the movie is just him trying to set up this whole thing, and it's kind of told in sort of a time period where horror films were sort of rejected by, the cookie cutter, town people, and yeah, I just think the vibe of it all is the same from My Boyfriend's Back, but just gives more of a more connected and comedic way that the other one missed.
And what an iconic cover. Now I'm looking at this. And it is.
The cover is pretty iconic. Yeah. Just think of now when you're into these like 3D movies, these 4D movies, these immersive experiences that they want to have in theaters. This was literally the blueprint, like having puppetry come out and smell-o-vision and all of that was embedded into this film, and I just think the vibe of it is a lot better. Something that I want to do different in season 5 is, along with my recommendations, I'm also going to tell you, Ryan, 3 films that this movie has inspired me to watch for the first time. I only found 2 of them, but the 2 films that this movie inspired me to want to watch someday, I Was a Teenage Zombie and My Best Friend is a Vampire. These are both 1987. Yes. I've never seen these, but I was reading the plot to both of them. I'm like, these are very similar to like this movie and all like Teen Wolf and all of that. And so I'm like, I want to watch these. I wonder if they're any good and if they might be better than My Boyfriend's Back. So hopefully soon I'll be able to check those out someday.
Really cool, really cool. So of course we'll check back with that. My best friends have
Yeah, and if any of you guys have seen either one of those two movies, please let me know if they're any good.
So we just completed our first venture back into this new season, Radical Ones. We are just beginning. Of course, we are still looking for reviews. We reached our 20 milestone before the summer's end. We haven't had any new ones as of recording, but of course, we always ask if you do listen to us on a certain platform, if you are on Spotify, if you can give that little rating on the top, if you're on Apple and have the time to write a written review. It lets us know if we're doing, the best that we could be doing and what you like and what you would like to see from us. And as always, Rob, where can the lovely people find you when you're not hanging out over here?
You can find me at Rob the Movie Geek, all one word. You can possibly find me under Rob the Unique Geek as well. I have old archive movie reviews on there, but you'll definitely see these recommendations on that page as well. And so that's where you can find me.
And the Radical Retro Rewind podcast, one word, on YouTube, TikTok, everywhere, Instagram and beyond. Thank you for joining us, Radical Ones. Thank you for joining us if you're new. We love to have you, and we hope to have many, many more years of radical fun with you. Thank you, Rob, for reviewing this movie that I feel like I burdened all of us into watching.
Look, the only thing that I will say is it makes no sense why this movie was $4.30. I don't know where.
No, oh my God, yes. What?
I don't understand why this movie cost so much. That was insane. But no, otherwise, I'm glad we had a chance to review this old school film.
But good point. It's not available streaming. You gotta purchase it. All right, Radical Ones, stay radical.